All right. Bruce, how are you doing?
I got the blues, obviously, but other than that, I'm fine.
Man, thank you so much for joining me here today, and thank you. This call's getting pretty busy pretty quick. Nearly got 90 people at the moment. Thank you everyone who's tuning in on the call.
Hi, everybody.
Those of you that missed it, you can also get to this on YouTube. It's at the same link that brought you here. So if you prefer YouTube, if you want to put that on your living room TV screen or whatever, that option is also there. Guys, welcome. It is Sunday evening where I am. I'm in England, getting in trouble because today is Mother's Day. I'm
Oh,
guessing it's not Mother's Day over there, is it?
no, no, we don't have Mother's Day till May.
Okay. So just for reference, I have a tradition of accidentally organizing these either on Mother's Day or my wife's birthday, which I've done 2 years in a row without realizing I've booked master classes on her actual birthday. So why break tradition this year? I'm going for gold. Bruce, we have some cool things today.
Yeah.
We've got cool things to talk about, but also let's just as some people have said in the chat, they're happy to be here. This is also just a cool thing by itself. We've got this chance to put questions to Bruce, pick his brain. I was having a chat with Bruce before this, and although we have loads of things to talk about, and we've got chapters of the book that we want to talk about and explain things about, please do put your questions in, even if they feel off topic. If we have time for them, we will hit them. Don't hold on to them. The moment they come to you, whack them in the chat. Right. Bruce, can you tell us a little bit about what we're here to promote
Oh, this
today?
is exciting for me. We are here to now announce today that I have a new book coming out, and it's called Chord Melody Fundamentals. And the big emphasis on fun. Though I hope many of you have seen the other book we have, which was basically transcriptions of my Instagram first course of the days. And I was in Italy, and a friend of mine named Tomas, who was at a workshop I was doing, he said he loved the book, but he complained because it was too hard. And I explained to him, well, I didn't really play those things to be etudes, really. I just played first thing in the morning, and they were transcribed, and then I went through them and kind of pointed out some cool things people should learn. And the things that I was showing him right then in the workshop, he says, "What you're showing me now, that should be in a book." And so that was the real genesis of this idea of this book. And what it is I would say the 12 concepts from which I draw most of my chord, what people would call chord melody ideas. And so I felt that, like, by just, the things that change my life, if I just give this all to everybody else, of course they can make them into what they want to make them into, and can use them in myriad situations. And so that's where we are with this book, and I'm super excited because it's out now. It came out like today or yesterday, right, Luke? So
It is out on Amazon and on the website.
Vivo and at Amazon. And what's really cool about this book is all the things that I'm doing in this book. There's also Instagram. There's internet links, so you can hear me actually play these things. Along with having them be written out, writing them out, explaining how to use them, and there's tablature and everything, you can still go and hear me play it and see me play it, so you can get even that deeper into it. And all for a very nominal price. I can't believe it. I only wish I had had this book 50 years ago. How much time it would have saved me.
Well, that's it. You get to pass that saving on to the next generation and to us.
I'm glad to do it. I really am.
So don't worry, guys. This isn't just going to be like us dancing around things and saying, go get the book and not actually breaking anything down. This masterclass is going to be included with the book, so people who buy it will get this. So we want to fill this with value,
Okay.
and we're not just it's not just a sales pitch. So don't worry about that.
Okay.
We'll talk about it, but we're here to really talk to you guys and answer your questions.
Yeah.
This is going to sound really stupid, but even in just you defining chord melody kind of gave me some light bulb moments, because when we were doing the book, I tend to think in what people are searching for on Amazon and what customers attach meanings to words and things like that. Chord melody to you, what does it mean?
Well, that's really, of course, and this is the very first thing I write in the book, I think, is basically chord melody. I think it's a bad word for what we do. It's a word we use. I use it. I call it. I know exactly what. Like, you could pretty much say what I played in that blues at the very beginning was mostly chord melody. But I think using those words give guitar players, especially aspiring guitar players, the wrong idea. To me, it's really not chord melody, which sounds like the emphasis is on the chord. I think it's melodies that are harmonized. So I could play a great melody and it would be fine by itself, but I could play a melody with just a little bit of harmony, like one other note, and that would be great too. I could play a melody with a full chord underneath it, and that would be that would be another way to do it. I could play a moving line against the melody I'm playing. These are all harmonized lines, and this is in the general scope of chord melody what I think is happening. Even though I'm using the term, it's not like verbatim chord with melody. It can be, or even playing like a line, like you play the blues and I answer with a chord. I consider that chord melody. So that was basically you could almost imagine like I was a piano player and I was playing lines with my right hand and I was comping in the spaces with my left hand, right? To me, that's even chord melody. So and in the book, I stress that it's really all about the melody because, frankly, if I had a good melody, I could put almost any chords underneath it and it would still work. I wouldn't say it would be great or it would be perfect or even make sense, but it would still be good. Like something as simple as like a weird triad kind of like, that was way better than just a bunch of hip voicings that weren't swinging and didn't have a good melody to them. So that is, I guess, my big answer to your question. What is chord melody? To me, it's just harmonizing and using what we have on the guitar, the polyphonic, the ability to play multiple notes, to really make a fuller statement out of music, which is basically melody.
Fantastic. I think that was one of the things that the book opened up for me was understanding that there's all this vocabulary involved and kind of not generic, but authentic chord melody vocabulary that I hadn't learned, because for me, chord melody just meant taking the melody of a standard and harmonizing it. So no matter what the standard, if if the melody was ever inactive, I was just holding a chord and letting it ring and waiting for the bar to finish. Which,
Right.
whereas what you do in the book is you go through the vocabulary of how you fill those spaces and the movements, but still sounding somewhat melodic and still having that authentic feel, instead of sounding like you've just gone from one thing to now I'm a rhythm guitarist, then back to playing the melody again. So with that said, I thought it would be cool if we start off by exploring one of the moves that you do in the book, because in the book.
Do the first one, which is the one that really unlocked all of it for me. And I credit to Barney Kessel. It's basically just a bebop lick, I mean, like in C minor, it would be, which is a typical Charlie Parker lick, just simple like that, right? And we play that all the time. And then I don't know whether I was playing with Barney or whether I just heard him do it or saw him do it, or maybe I heard it on a record. I don't really know, but it, when I did it, it just opened up the world of chord melody for me. And so we have this C minor bar. I just played that lick, right? And then basically with this C minor bar with a little bit of hammer on, I can pick it or I can hammer on. You see, that's the first notes, and then I jump up to a C minor 9. Just by doing that, I have played in a chordal way. And that, to me, that realization, like, oh, could be done. I mean, and of course, just all the variations I could come up with that phrase. I mean, you can hear how, like, I could just play millions of things over minor chords now with just this one idea, and to really, yes, that's in the book, and some of the variations are in the book, but believe me, Michael in New York, you can come up with your own variations. You've been listening to music and you know songs, so you can do this. Just basically me learning this. It just changed my world. That right there is the book. More than, you got 11 more ideas, but this one, if you just take this one, believe me, what it can do for your playing, and and it's not just for soloing and chord melody, it can also be used kind of for comping. If I'm playing some like minor blues or even like on blue bossa, that kind of a thing. I mean, look, it's just so usable and it's so easy to comprehend and it just lays right out on the guitar. I mean, thank you, Barney Kessel. That's all I can say.
So the book kind of develops on with some more moves as well. But what you're saying you would do, say you were giving this to a student,
Right.
you would say mine this for a certain amount of time and take.
Right. Exactly. I mean, this book isn't one of those methods where you do, this, then this, and you work. It's like that's an idea. You should take that and use it and use it and use it and use it until you're sick of it. And then when you get sick of it, you'll come up with other ways to use it. I mean, it's going to be part of your DNA. And so um, it's there. I mean, think of how many minor chords you play in a jam session in a day. Now, you don't want to do this on every minor chord probably, but think you now your huge vocabulary has just gotten that much bigger, and now it's your imagination to how to make use of this. And that's what I'm really big about with my students, and I would suggest with all the books I write, is guys, it's up to you. Your imagination is exactly what makes you have your sound, what makes your music, makes you play the way you play. And you need to engage that. When you learn something, you're not learning one thing. You're learning a million things. You need to take that thing and use it in many different ways. I've been going up on it. That's always up, up. What about down? What about breaking the notes in half? I mean, there's so much in there if you just kind of start letting your ear take over. But remember, it's about the melody, and it's most importantly about the melody having good timing, good swing, good articulation. That is really where the music is, you know? So, like, you need to kind of sing it through the guitar. You can't, because I guarantee if I had all you guys sing something, you'd sing something really cool to play. And then if you go to play it, it doesn't sound that good. Well, that's just because you are not demanding that your playing map out the articulation and the dynamics and the phrasing and the feel of what you're hearing.
That's
So that,
great. I
but
think
that one thing I just showed you all is really, I can tell you how much of my life has been based on what that gave me. I mean, obviously, other types of chords. I could do the same sort of idea with a major chord. I could do it with a dominant chord. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing that you guys are playing. Hopefully you're learning songs. So there's three things about getting better on an instrument. I've asked everybody I've ever played with who I really admired what were like the important things, right, for them that made them how great they were. And everybody says, I mean, not most people, everybody says you got to play a lot, you got to listen a lot to good music, and you got to learn tunes. Every one of them. They might say other stuff too, but those three things are in everybody's answer. So if you're not doing those three things, start doing whichever one you're not doing. Okay, listen, play, and learn tunes. That's the three things. And I don't mean read them out of the real book. Sorry. There's nothing wrong with having the real book and going to a jam session. If you don't know a song, you can't know every song. It's great that you've got that. But go home and learn the song. Learn the melody and learn the chords. That's all you got to do. You don't have to learn it in every key. Pretty soon, by learning so many songs, you'll be able to play it in every key and you won't even need to worry about it. Take my word for it. I promise you. It's really a lot easier than you think. You just got to start down the road.
that's awesome. If you'll forgive me making things awkward, I've had some people giving some Bruce Forman quotes, so I'm just going to quote you back to yourself because I think
Okay,
these are awesome.
this could be embarrassing.
So one great Formanism, I think they're called.
Yeah, you're still called
Play like you're from Mars. Can you expand on that?
I think that was when I was just saying, like we kind of have licks and we have things that we always play and other people play, and you never walk up to your instrument and go like, well, what can I do with it? Like would you necessarily hold it like this and play it like this, or would you kind of, I mean, be that in that sort of sense of discovery is what I meant. And
That's
don't be afraid
I like it. I get it. I get it. That's good.
to try things. You know what I mean? Have that wonder. Remember, kids make such great musicians because they don't have that inhibitions of adults. They don't judge things quickly. They react to things. We need to retain that. And whether that's Martian or childish, I think I might use Martian in that particular phrase that way.
Awesome. And then a more on point quote, uh, again from Terry, is take something small and see what you can do with it. I think that's kind of what we're talking about here, really, right?
One idea. Well, I mean, yeah, just what can you do with it? Can you add chromaticism to it? Can you change the rhythm? Can you change the direction? Can you alternate the notes? Can you, wow, that's C minor, but what happens if I play it over E flat major? Well, that sounds pretty nice to me. What if you played it over an F7? I might change that note. Instead of the C minor, I play an F9 there. But I mean, that's like, wow. I mean, come on, guys. How much shit can we do with this? Yes, it's. I believe that when you hear a great player play, they don't have a million things in their head. They just have a couple things in their head, but they can do a million things with those couple things. And that's why knowing the song is so important, because then it opens all up. You're comfortable while you're playing. You're not chasing things.
Exactly. That's a great point. Okay. Um, I'm actually amazed at how many great questions we've got coming in.
Well, that's great. I mean, thank you, folks, for putting them in. I hope you understand that we can't get to them all, and I do give private lessons on Zoom, so wherever you are in the world, we can still hang out if you want to try and do that. Um, but yeah, thank you for asking questions, and for those of you that are asking questions, good on you, because that's how you learn. And there is no such thing as a stupid question. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
So if I don't ask someone's question, have I made them stupid? No, no, I don't have that power.
How many times have you had a student and you're sitting there and they want to ask you something, but they don't, and you can't tell what it is, and you can't read their mind and know what they need to know.
And then you see them a week later and they've built up the courage and you go, oh, why didn't you ask last time? We could have
I mean,
saved you
yeah,
so much.
I get, you know, but you want to learn it, take it for you, Be selfish.
So I will dive into these now, actually, and then I do have to bring up the cover of the book just because it's hilarious. I don't, if you guys haven't seen the cover, I'll bring that on stream for a second. But moving on to these questions, this first one: can you elaborate a little bit on your use of the pick with chords versus Joe Pass fingerstyle? And thanks in advance.
Okay, yes. I generally use the pick, although I do what a lot of I think people call hybrid picking. Like if I wanted to go finger style, I kind of just use these fingers instead of. So I lose my index finger, obviously, because of the pick. But I do like having the pick because the low notes have more definition. If you're playing the low notes, because sometimes I don't play with my nails, so my thumb kind of gets a little less distinctive sound. And also, if I want to jump to playing lines with the pick, I've got it in my hand. But I do play a lot fingerstyle a la Joe Pass. I mean, I love doing that. But I can do all that with a pick too. Second jump to pick. And so if I jump into a line playing, the pick is right there. Because I really don't I personally, sorry, Joe, I don't like the sound of playing lines like this because it gives it sort of a, it takes the the consistency of the melody out of it, because the mass of this finger is different than the mass of your thumb. So it gets a slightly different tone. So you won't hear dooba dooba da like my voice sounds like. You'll hear, it'll get like a little planky and twanky. And not a word, but one I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. So like when I play, that was with fingers, I think you can hear the difference of the consistency of the line. It's more vocal-like, it's more horn-like. So that's kind of my reason for wanting to have the pick around. That, and I play so many lines, and Joe's way of doing it was kind of more like play a lot of chord stuff, then play lines and spots, and then, you know what I mean? He was a lot more programmatic the way he introduced it. And God, nobody's a bigger fan of him. And some of his ideas are in this book. Matter of fact, I kind of call everything I do in the book a move, which is really unmusical terminology, really, when you think about it. But John Pisano used to, I would show him this stuff, and he goes, "Show me that move you just did," so I'd show him some, and we'd talk about it. And he said, then he started telling me that Joe Pass used that terminology. That's where he got it. Now, I hung out with Joe Pass myself. Never heard Joe Pass use the word, but that doesn't mean anything. I think it's a great word to describe what we're doing here. And John knew Joe better than anybody. So, anyways, I just think that, Joe is, the person to kind of aspire to,
On the subject of Joe, we've got a question which is, one second. Do you distinguish chord melody a la Joe Pass virtuoso and chord solos like those played by Wes? Do you distinguish between them, or are they approached differently? And then they've added that they tend to prefer the Wes approach.
To me, they both live under the umbrella of chord melody in my mind. You know what I mean? Of course, conceptually, how you play them is different, right? And frankly, as much as I love both Joe and Wes and learned a lot from them, I got most of my stuff from piano players. I think, Red Garland with the block chords is like the height of the art of that. Oscar Peterson, people like that, just those kind of chordal solos really are more, and Wynton Kelly, that's kind of where I've been, and I'm also trying to emulate the sound of the Count Basie Big Band in my playing. So my concept, and Barney always said that about me, he used to say, yeah, I like you because you don't, you play the way I play, but you don't sound like me. And he could tell that I got my stuff from like Count Basie and Red Garland and Bird and everything. And Wes really, boy, no one ever played block chords better than Wes did. No one ever played solo guitar better than Joe Pass did. So, it's like...
Yeah. So in the book, you have a Garland move, and you talk about Wes and block chords. Could you explain block chords for those people that may not know what they are, and then play some examples?
So, for the guitar, we would call something like... That would be like kind of a block chords thing for the guitar. But in truth, block chords on the piano are like octaves with the chords inside it. So the octave is the melody you're playing, and the notes that are inside are like the harmonies that go with it. But with the guitar, we don't really kind of worry about having the octaves on both sides. It's just the top note we're worrying about. And you're like, I'm playing F blues, and I've got an F chord, and I'm just going to go, that's just like a parallel voicing. That's and what I'm doing is I'm harmonizing that melody, right? And I'm using basically when I land on chord tones, I'm probably using chord voicings. And when I'm moving between stuff, I'm using probably more parallel, not really diatonic. I'm not really trying to go like, like really, unless I'm going slower. I'm using more altered dominance and diminished type voicings in the passing stuff.
Okay.
And look, I talk about that. I talk about the block chords. There's a whole section kind of using the Wes was my big inspiration, other than Red Garland. Wes was my big inspiration for the guitar side of it, and I even said in the book, how at first it sounded to me like everything he played was a diminished chord. It sounded like the whole thing was just a bunch of diminished chords, But then as my ears grew up and I got better, I could hear, no, he was using, oh, no, that's a regular F13. No, that's an F9. Oh, but yeah, but there's the, there's the diminished passage. I mean, I'm hearing diminished chords in there. And another thing I noticed that I like to do, and I'm not so sure about Wes, I think he did it too, is if you remove one of the notes from the diminished chord, like we have this typical one, it sounds like a girl being tied up on train tracks or some shit. If you just remove this finger, and you play more linear, it takes that diminished sound out of it. That kind of tensiony silent movie thing. This is a regular F chord, right? And that was all that sort of diminished chord. It's more like a seventh chord. It's hard to say what it is, and it can be used everywhere. But you'll find like, well, I don't really like it when I get back to F. No. It would be better. That's better. You know what I mean? And you'll just refine it. But the thing is back to my original point of having that melody and having that phrase in your head that you're trying to play already. Now you're just harmonizing it. And as you go through the process, you'll refine it. Don't worry about it. Just play the notes and play the rhythms and get it out there, and then fix it as your ears grow better and better. Your ears will determine, oh, I need a better voicing. Then you'll sit and you'll engineer a good voicing, or maybe you get a book and get one, or maybe you'll transcribe one, whatever. I mean, that's how that stuff's become super usable in your playing. It gives you real benefits for your practice.
So on that little passage that you were doing there, like that diminished chord moving up,
Yeah.
someone's asked. To me, it looks and sounds like you're using a lot of the same voicings for different chords. So you're using that shape to get different chords.
I didn't change the shape. Yes, I am. Can everybody see my hand here? It's like it's
Yeah.
just basically I'm playing like this would be an F and a B on the G string and an A flat on the high E string, and I'm just going to play that typical blues lick we play, right? And I'm just going to play it, right? And I'm muting the B string. Nothing's happening there. Now I went to an F13 there, but you know
Okay. Yeah. Uh,
I'm hoping like for me, you guys like light bulbs are going up. Oh, I've been sweating about every little chord in that shape. And those are a bunch of passing notes, even in the melody. Those those notes aren't that important. If I just stayed on one, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not we if we're going to worry about that kind of shit, we're never going to play.
yeah, that was me. That was me. I did
Okay.
all of that.
I mean, so you just kind of like let it go and fix it as you go. I mean, That's actually one of my master classes on my music master classes. It's called, we always think we need to learn to burn. That's what we want to do. We want to learn to burn. You know what we really need to do? We need to burn to learn. We need to just play shit and figure it out after. We need to get it feeling good and sounding good and getting the energy going and getting the positive spirit going. Then we can fix it all. Then we're way better.
Okay, so I've got this question here. I think you've just answered it, but let me know if you want to add anything to it. Um, so they've asked, would you recommend directly working on tunes without knowing all the triad scales and arpeggios across the fretboard, or are there recommended must-have prerequisites before working on tunes?
No, no prerequisite. I would say start working on tunes. You got to learn tunes. Learn the melody. Learn the the yeah, learn the melody and the harmony of every song. However, yes, you need to become friendly with the guitar. And let me just explain something here real fast. I'm going to use an F minor as an example, okay? F minor. And it's based on the caged system or whatever you want to call it, because that's the way the guitar works. So I've got an F minor right here, right? The first one happens right near the nut. I'm hoping everybody can see, but they know it. It's that first would be the E version of the F minor, and then, and I've got all this color of all these notes are in F minor. They're right there. I can add them to the voicing if I want, or I can just play them separate. It doesn't matter, right? The next one that happens is here, which would be technically the D minor version of the F chord barred up at the 3rd fret, You can just find the sounds where they all are there. The next one that occurs, the D version, of course, is like, no, I just did the D version, so I'm doing the C version, yeah. So it's this F minor. It's like a half bar at the 6th fret with the the E flat and the C on the 8th fret, boom, boom. Well, there it is. It's all in there. There's your C. There's your C looking F minor, right? And then the next one's here, boom, which is this A version. Then we play the one that we did the Barney Kessel thing out of, right? That's where the Barney Kessel minor lick came from. There it was. And the next one here is the first one you played, up the neck. So we've covered the whole neck of F minor. There's nowhere where I can have a note in a melody somewhere where I don't have an F minor I can grab. Well, if you do that with your minors, your majors, and your dominants, which I think I start the book out with this information. I'm pretty sure that even before we get into the first concept, this stuff is like, this is kind of the way I look at the guitar. This is the way I think you should look at the guitar. Of course you should play scales, and of course you should play all the permutations of them, the ones that are in a pipe pattern, but also the ones that go up the neck. That's harmonic, melodic, Dorian. Of course you should do all that and make little patterns, all that stuff. Of course you should do that. I mean, you want to have some facility. This is the best way to get it. But do you need this to play music? No. You need to know the song, and you need to have something you want to say, and you need to be there ready to make some sound. You know what I mean? That makes people feel and think and laugh. That's what music's about. So, no, you can be doing all that learning of the fingerboard while you're playing music. You don't have to do one first. That's not my opinion. In my opinion, no. Long answer to a short question.
Well, an important answer to an important question. Let's put it that way. Fantastic. So, we've got some people asking about maybe looking at another move. We'll save that one for later. Let's have a look at these. So, actually, I did
history. We wanted to buy a truck.
I did butcher someone's question. The gentleman that was asking about how you use one voicing for multiple chords.
Yeah.
So you're using you've got these go-to voicings that you use for multiple chords. How do you choose your voicings? What makes you think of something as a good voicing and that you want to explore where it can take you?
Well, you know, that's where sometimes theory comes in. Sometimes transcribing comes in. You know what I mean? Sometimes even a friend will show me one, or I'll see one on YouTube. I saw that picture of Alan Holdsworth playing 5 E's. Did you see that? Where he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that looks like this or
yeah.
something. You look at it, you go, wait a minute, he's playing 5 E's there. but but my point is like, believe it or not, you learn the voicing, you figure it out, whatever it is, you start to hear it. I know you're not going to believe, but when I do this, if I want to hear this, I know exactly what that is versus or I can tell you before I play any of those, I know exactly what they're going to sound like. So when I go to play, it's just like you might wanting to hear. I can already hear the harmony that goes with it. But that's because why? Because I've played a lot and I've done it a lot. That's what's going to teach you this, guys. Burn to, not the learn to burn, it's the burn to learn. Because there's only 3 ways you can move something. You can move it parallel. I'll even use a triad. That's parallel, right? The same voicing in the melody. That's parallel. I can also do it diatonically, right? So, like, obviously, there's no A flat and F7, so I'd have to kind of think of something for that. But see, I use chords that fit inside the scale. But I could also do it harmonically, which, in other words, I'm going to superimpose a chord progression over this, just like C7, F, G minor, B7, C7. You know what I mean? Now I'm kind of superimposed a chord progression. So there's basically 3 ways you can move the harmony against a melody. And if you just experiment with all 3 of those ways, every discovery you make becomes a part of your vocabulary. I mean,
Oh,
it's
fantastic.
simple. It's not easy. Okay? It's simple. That's really, guys, I just want to impress everybody on something. We practice to make playing easier, not to make playing harder. If you go to a teacher and they're making playing harder for you, not easier, I'm suggesting you might want to just kind of rethink everything. The whole idea of learning is to make shit easier, not to make it harder. Okay? So if you're embarking on something and you're making something more difficult for you, try and look at it the other way. Try and make it easier for you. That is the key to this. Because the greatest players, they're not thinking about anything. They know the song and they're just sort of playing off of what they're hearing. And that's because they made their work that they did to that moment made everything easier for them to do.
That's great advice. I can see a lot of people having the little light bulbs go off. Amazing.
I'm glad. I mean, to me, this is super important because I want you guys all playing great music. The more great music in the world, the more we're going to have of it, and the more people are going to get into it, and the more people are going to know about it. You know what I mean? And right now in the world, we all need to be hanging out playing music together. The world would be a lot better off if more people were playing better and hanging out. You know.
On that note, get out and get to the jam night and do those things that we're all too scared to do.
Set up a session, set up a jam night, set up whatever. I mean, and a big part of the chord thing, guys, and where all this came from for me was accompaniment. I mean, back in the day, I'm an old guy, but I used to, when I was a kid, I used to play, the jam session. Most of the professional piano players and guitar players wouldn't play jam sessions because we didn't have organized jam sessions were in San Francisco. It was like basically we'd play a blues and there'd be 50 horn players in a line and all of them would take a solo. Okay, you know what I mean? So you can imagine you're you're comping for 50 solos, right? And that gives you a lot of time to play a lot of chord voicings, right? And to change things and find out, wow, what if I leave this part of the chord out? What if I leave this part? I mean, all that experimentation. A lot of what you're hearing from me is just experience having played. But when you're comping, if you're just thinking I'm going to do the blues. If you're just thinking F7 and any B flat 7, then F7 and then F7, it's like it sounds like shit. No one wants to play over that, and it's not going to help your chord melody. But hear that? I picked that chord. That's my F9. Well, if I'm going to hear a B flat, I'm going to probably want to hear. I'm going down to a B flat. Now I've got this decision. Do I want to sit on B flat 7 or do I want to maybe go to B flat minor? And that probably means I want to go to A minor. Now I've got the option of either going D7 or A flat minor, G minor, and then I want to go to C, but I don't want to just use that damn G on top again. A little chromatic thing. I mean, comping is a great place to kind of work that really simple voice leading on the top of your chords. And, you should sit there while you're learning a tune and you're playing the chords of the tune. Play the chords, listen to that top note. You can kind of hear where the song's going. You can kind of hear, what the chord you're going to play is next. Listen for that note you want to hear on top of it and play it. What you are doing is chord melody right then. And it's the basic, it's the true foundation of chord melody. And let's face it, there are a million singers, horn players, that want you to play chords for them. They can't accompany themselves. So here's a place for you guys. You can find, I'll guarantee in your minds right now, you're thinking of 3 or 4 people that you could call up and they would love to have you play chords for them. And this is what you need to do as long as you're working on it with a lot of this stuff in the book and everything, from the voice leading melodic point of view, it's just going to grow so fast. It's going to literally kind of rewire the way you hear and think about chords.
So, I just, well, to take a little aside, I want to show people the cover of this book before I get sued by Warner Bros. Or whoever it is.
Before you get what? Sued?
Before I get the cease and desist from Porky Pig.
Oh, okay.
So, well, has that worked? There we go. Can people see that?
Oh, there it is. Whoa. Hey.
So,
who's a long-haired hippie?
we had someone ask, what specifically can I learn from this book? Like you're talking a lot about philosophy right now, but what are the specifics? Could you answer that question and get me out of jail on this?
Sure. Get that thing off there. Okay. Yes. Well, obviously, you're welcome for how the guitar is laid out in my mind. That, that right there is huge. That's going to be a huge thing for you. Obviously, the over a minor chord thing is great, but the next one in there, I believe, is the Red Garland one, which was just a simple thing. Whenever, he would play the blues, he would play the last phrase, and even though it was a dominant chord, he said that's a major 7. It still sounds great. And so I extrapolated that, and I said, well, shoot, I can play all my melodies in thirds, From from that one idea, you see how I extrapolated all that stuff? That's another one in here. Joe Pass, all often when he had to play a 2-5-1. I'm just going to do a few things that you're going to get in this book. He had to do a 2-5-1, like A minor D7G. He'd play A minor 9, and then of course normally we'd play like a D9 13, you know, before we play the G major 9 or whatever. He would play. Okay, and if you really listen to it, it's just chromatic passing chords, right? That's really just, but it's all on the inside of the chord there. That's like an E flat, now 9 plus 5. Now we got the D9 13, and then we go to the D flat 9 13, but that could be an A flat 7 sharp 9, right? You know, so, well, you know, you extrapolate on that, every chord, you know, every chord we play, you know, I mean, every chord you play, you can start moving the, you know, the chromatic stuff around it while you keep that top note common, called common tone, right? So these are some of the many moves that are in the book. There's voice leading exercises. There's big band style shout choruses. There's the West thing of playing parallel kind of diminished chord ideas. You know what I mean? Now, obviously, if I sat and slowed that down, you go, ooh, what is that chord? What is that chord? But moving at that speed, a diminished chord, the whole point of diminished chords is to move things. You know, diminished chords aren't places of arrival. They're like moving chords. So Wes, you know, he didn't supposedly know any theory. Obviously, he could hear it. But, you know, he figured that one out pretty fast, didn't he? So,
Well, thank you so much. Okay,
hope
so
I've answered questions for this guy. You know, get the book, and if you don't like it, leave a good review, anyways.
yeah, I wish. Yeah, feel free to do that. Right. We got some meaty questions here. Let's pick one of the ones that came in earlier, which was about. Oh, can you discuss your use of McCoy-Tyner quartal harmony over the blues?
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, yeah. That was a huge discovery for me. You know, I'm very much into McCoy Tyner. It's probably somebody who knows me and knows that I am. But you know, like we're playing. You know, we're playing F7. But really, you know, especially when the guys got into that pentatonic-y kind of quartal harmony in the, I guess, 60s, late 60s, really it was kind of like they were thinking F minor or F sus. You know what I mean? It's like, can you hear that? Can everybody hear that C? I'm playing like a C minor stack, fourths, a stack of fourths. C, F, B flat, E flat, right? And then I start moving it around. Like I mentioned, parallel voicings moving. I'm just using it now, but I could do it actually, what they call diatonically. You know. You know. And that gives me that sort of opens the F chord into a more open McCoy-Tyner-y sounding thing, you know. You know, that's kind of gives you that idea. And then if I want some tension, you know, like that kind of thing. That's a really fun thing to mess around with because it on the guitar it works so good because you're just basically you've got this 1/4 stack and you're moving it wherever you want, you know, and you're listening to the amount of dissonance and tension you get versus the amount of release you get when you get to a home chord. And it's basically the philosophy of over an F7, we think C minor. So that, whether you want to think of it as like the two that would be in the 251, right? So if I got 251 in G, A minor, D7. Well, if I'm playing a D7, then I can play A minor to get that more open sound. That's one good way to look at it. You can think of it as a fifth away. You can think of it as I don't know. There's a bunch of whatever math you want to do. Eventually you won't need to think. You'll just hear it because you'll have introduced your ear to it.
Awesome. Some people have asked for me to show them some pages from the book. So while I do that, what I'll do is I'll pose you with the next question. So you've got something to prepare in the meantime.
Yeah, I can keep them busy while you're working.
Well, I'll show them this, but the next question that we've got come in is about can you give an example of superimposition, maybe like superimposing chords and melodies on a tune? So while you're thinking about how to answer that, I'll just show people this really quickly.
The question, I mean, like quoting another song inside of a different song.
I imagine it's just putting. Well, we've got lots of questions on chord substitutions as well. So we've got people asking about chord substitutions for a 1-6-2-5, maybe the different harmonic possibilities.
Yeah, that's another one. Okay, so yeah.
So I'll quickly talk through the book and then I'll hand back to you. So we got this. I'll just give people a quick overview. We have the 11 moves that we've been talking about, 11 concepts, and there's even more moves than that. And then there's 5 full etudes fully transcribed on standards. And it's all got voicing images, breakdowns, and tab. And you get the audio and video of every example as well, plus guitar profiles if you like guitar profiles. So you can see it, you can hear it, you can read it. Someone asked if the transcriber had the video. Yes, they did, so all the fingerings are accurate. And it's available from guitarvivo.com. If you just go to the homepage, it's there as our most recent book. Okay, I'm sorry for the plug. Go buy the book and then I don't have to talk about it. Bruce, back to you for that question.
Really, no, I mean, thanks to the internet here, and thank you, Luke, for having this idea. Besides the fact that it's transcribed and it's in tabs, it's also, if you want to hear what that sounds like, you can just go online and listen to me playing it and watch me playing it. I mean, the good fortune to be alive today and have access to all this for such a nominal price, is it's staggering. I mean, I'm sitting about thinking about when I was learning that stuff, what was available to me, and this is just so much richer and deeper, and it's great. Thank you for doing this, man. The standards are covered. I saw that question. Yeah, I just did like Autumn Leaves and Night and Day and Honeysuckle Rose, How High the Moon and the Blues or something. It was basically the idea is when I played these standards, I purposely tried to kind of overuse the concepts that are already in the book. That was kind of the point of those etudes versus this book of etudes, which was just me playing, whatever I felt like playing.
So that's the cool thing. After each etude, there's a little breakdown where you...
Right, and I mentioned like, as far I did this, as far I did this. Notice how I use this idea. Right, yeah.
Which is incredible. Okay, so that's our new exciting book, which someone's already said they picked up, and it looks great, and it's awesome. Thank you very much, Michael. Bruce, let's talk about what seems to be everyone's question of different harmonic options on a 1-6-2-5, and then maybe we could tie in some of your chord melody moves or something like that you would...
Well, I mean, this goes, again, I'm sorry, I'm going to give you a long answer to a short question. Basically, what you're describing is a turnaround. And I would say if I took the real book or a fake book or whatever, or just song book, and I circled turnarounds, there would probably be most of the book circled. Mostly what is happening in music is turnarounds, at least the music I play. And so it would behoove us all, right, to focus on options for turnarounds, right? Just because we're playing so many of them in the song. And just like I said about the chord voicings, as soon as you start to hear these turnarounds, you're going to start to intuit which one you want to use. You're not always going to go 1-6-2-5. Sometimes you're going to go one, you're like, okay, 1-6-2-5, I'll do it in F. So there's F, D, G minor, C. But maybe you'll go F, F sharp diminished, G minor, C. But then you'll go like, wow, if I did the diminished and I'm climbing, I get to G minor. Well, I'm going to end up on A minor at the beginning. I'll go to G sharp diminished. And so my point is, think about the next chord you're going to go to. The obvious subs for the one are the one chord, the F, or the three chord. That's A, in this case would be A minor or A7. But it would also be E flat 7, because anything that's going to go to D7 is a good substitute for an F chord. Now we're at the D7. What's a good substitute for that? Well, anything is going to take us to G, right? So obviously A flat 7 would be good. I don't know about you, but I like C minor going to G. So that's another one. And then we get to the G. Well, we could use G minor, we could use G7, we could use D flat 7. Those all go to C. Maybe, even B flat minor. And then we got C7, we got F sharp, And so we've got all these options. Wouldn't it even be bad for all of you to kind of write them in columns and just mess around and just sort of zigzag and just learn to hear them? Because when you start to intuit them and hear them, then you use them. And like my favorite one that I would suggest everybody use, so I'm going to give you another one here. I don't know that it's in the book or not, but in the key of F, I like E flat 7 plus 11 with the A on top to a D7 sharp 9, sharp 5, and then the D flat plus 11, 7 plus 11, and then we go to a C13. And so you can hear that cool melody. And here's harmonized. Maybe I'll put a flat 9 with the C. And now I'm going to turn around to the blues, and I'm going to play this instead of going home to F, okay? Now I hit F on the 1 bar, not in the 11 bar. You see what I'm saying? And like, we just arrived at F, and then we go away, and then we come back to F to start a chorus. So like, you're taking a lot of the drama of hitting that F chord at the beginning of a chorus if you resolve to that F in the 11th bar. So you're better off going to E flat or A minor or A7 and following the turnaround, because that makes that beginning of that next chorus have all that beautiful power. So think about that, study your turnarounds and make, and you start to make good decisions because you have options. Practicing is about developing options. Playing is about making choices.
Oh God. That's great.
Now I'm coming from approaching from like the 2 chord. One more time. G minor, C7. I'm doing it a different place on the neck. The same thing though. Okay, so. Now, right at the beginning, I slammed an F in your face, and it felt, oh yeah, we're going for another chorus now, So.
Fantastic. I think I have a feeling if we do another one of these, the quotes I'm going to get will be what people have heard from this workshop. There's so many little knowledge bombs that you've just said. We've got a couple of questions that I might tie together because we've got a few people saying how much they love your mother tunes. So maybe you could just say what those are again for people. And we've got some people saying um, what simple tunes should I start trying to do chord melodies with? And another question is, when I'm learning this stuff in the book, what's a tune that I should be applying it to in tandem while I'm working with it? So maybe we can just talk a little bit about the basic repertoire that we should be looking at for these kinds of things.
Right. And for those of you who haven't been in my circle enough to know this, I had a podcast with Scott Henderson and Troy McCubbin called Guitar Wank. And all the episodes are still up on guitarwank.com. One day, Scott didn't show up, and I was there with Troy, and he just sort of threw a guitar in my hands. He says, "Tell me what 10 tunes I should learn." You know what I mean? And so I went into the mother tunes. It's episode 99, the letter V as in Victor, okay, or victory. Um, Basically, I'm playing the 10 basic tunes that everybody should learn, and because they're they're the harmonic moves that you're going to find in all the other tunes, and the melody is so beautifully indicative of the harmony. Like, I want you all to have the ability to be able to hear a melody and just hear the chords that would go with that. Just know it right off the bat, right? You know, you could play a tune you'd never heard before and be totally confident that you could find the changes for it just when the person played the or sang the melody. And believe me, you're all capable of this if you start learning these tunes, because you're going to come across all the moves to the four and the moves to the relative minor and the moves to the three chord, you know, and all these, and a climbing progression versus a cyclical progression. All these things are going to, you're going to meet them in the most pure way, in my opinion. That's why those mother tunes are so important. So I would start with them, of which they are like Summertime, Autumn Leaves, Take the A Train, Honeysuckle Rose, All the Things You Are, There Will Never Be Another You, Green Dolphin Street, Just Friends, songs like that are in there. Okay, and there's probably, I give you an option of either It Could Happen to You or Ain't Misbehaving. They both do the same thing, which is that thing we always hear. That kind of climbing up, you know, chromatically. It's just a harmonic move. Both those melodies tell you that's what's happening. That's why I like them. They're optional, either one you like. Any one would be great for starting with chord melody, and actually some of those songs are, particularly Autumn Leaves. I know everybody kind of gets a little bit, Autumn Leaves, yuck, yeah, yeah, yuck, 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 you know, but because they play it so much, but really it is probably one of the best songs ever written. It's just this beautiful marriage of the minor and the major, the relative minor and the major living together in different ways. And the form of it, it's just beautiful. And it's a perfect place to start really working these ideas out. And everything you do work out in this song is going to be usable in every other song you play. So that's another thing that I really want to impress on everybody, is that these ideas are universal. I mean, basically, you play a major chord or a minor chord. You play a progression, you know, like it's a 2-5-1, or you go to the 4 chord, or you go to the 2 chord, you know, it's a dominant. I mean, these things happen in every song. And so everything you learn in Take the A Train can be used in Girl from Ipanema, you know what I mean? You know, and it's like, it's just so, you know, we need to not start thinking as fragmented and as, you know, segregated as we do. Everything you know about music should be at play every second you're playing music.
Fantastic. On the subject of the mother tunes, someone's actually asked, do you have mother solos? So actual like a list
You
of
know,
solos that you think people should learn.
yeah, but I mean, I think that I should leave it to you. I mean, I can tell you some solos that changed my life. Uh, you know, pretty much every solo on the "Someday My Prince Will Come" song on the Miles Davis record. There's a Wynton Kelly. There's Hank Mobley. There's John Coltrane. Those solos, maybe the best solos ever taken. um, you know, and you know all of the Charlie Parker heads, like confirm, are actually solos. They're not I mean, and they were thought out. So I would go for those for really good information, like Scrapple from the Apples, Confirmation, Donna Lee, all those songs. Um, John Coltrane on "You Say You Care" is just a masterful, perfect solo. Wynton Kelly on "My Shining Hour." Um, oh shoot, there's just so many. Charlie Christian on "Flying Home." At least there's two versions of it. The one where he goes, that one is just so beautiful. Um, Wes Montgomery on "Gone with the Wind." Wes Montgomery on "If You Could See Me Now." No, on "In Your Own Sweet Way." Pretty much every one of the solos on the Incredible Jazz Guitar record are just like the best solos ever taken. You know. So yeah, I mean, but I highly suggest everybody find the ones that and don't necessarily go for the really hard ones. And my suggestion when you learn them, use the 100 rule. Listen to it 100 times, sing along with it 100 times, then learn to play it, and then play along with it 100 times, and you'll have it, and it'll be part of your playing forever.
That's great. There was a question earlier about strengthening their ability to sing what they play and play what they sing and that kind of stuff. Do you have any advice on that? Does it start with listening 100 times?
Well, no, I mean, I think that's really good. I think when you start doing it, you'll find that you're actually not playing what you're hearing, but you're hearing what you're playing. I mean, you know what I mean? So like you'll start singing your solos, but you realize your fingers are really doing it and your voice is following your fingers. And you want to eventually switch, and that's okay at the beginning, and understand that that's probably what's going to happen, but know that your eventual goal is to play what you're singing, not to sing what you're playing. But if first, we know it's an F chord. Well, you know what I mean? You kind of do that, but then eventually you get into this place for you could. The thing hope you could hear the most was the way I was articulating. Even if I played a wrong note or sang a wrong note, it was like if I went bap, I mean, I hit that guitar with a bap, and if I wanted to go la 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 la, there was no break in those notes. I mean, even though they were articulated with my pick, they were legato, they were long. They weren't. They were, because that's what I sang. If I'd have sang da 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 da, I would play that, But I'm going da 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 do dee da 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 stali da bu do bu do whip whip bu da sa da 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 de ba do do lep ba bu dee da. You know what I mean? That's like that's really where your expression comes from. It's not the notes and the rhythms. Notes and rhythms don't give a shit. They're just as happy to sound bad as good. It's you guys that make them sound good.
Oh, where were you 20 years ago when I was struggling to play jazz guitar? Oh man. So that was incredible. Thank you so much for that. We've still got a couple of quicker questions here on voicings. The first one is, ever use Johnny Smith stretch chords in your chord melodies?
Of course I do. I love them. Generally speaking, be very aware that when a stretch chord means that there's close voicings, right? In other words, the notes are very close to each other because the guitar is tuned in fourths. So if your hand's like this, there's nothing that's like, closer than a third for sure. So you start doing this, now you're getting seconds and stuff in there, right? Now, seconds are delicate. I mean, if you're playing fast, if there's somebody playing with you who's playing louder or harder, it's going to get squashed like a delicate flower. And it's harder to play, so it's harder to move your hand in time. So when I use these things are generally when they're featured, like if I'm playing solo and I'm not, um, I don't have to worry about them getting squished by what's going on around them, or I'm not going to try and play a lot of fast shit with them. You know what I mean? Because I know that I won't have to worry about, clumsiness, and it won't sound like a good phrase, which is the thing we started with today, right? But yes, like if I'm playing just some voicings that are there to be featured, nothing better than a beautiful close voicing. God, it's so. I mean, that's that Johnny the Moonlight in Vermont, right? That's so beautiful. But if a drummer was smashing, or I tried to do that fast, it would probably get sloppy sounding and clumsy. I mean, I'd be better off just going, there's enough chords there. I don't need to worry about it. But if I've got my time, that's so beautiful. So yes, just remember, guys, we're playing music, and all the laws and realities of music apply. I mean, if you can't make it swing, just play the melody note. You don't have to play a chord. Swinging is more important than a good voicing any day of the week. Really, this. I mean, that is music. I didn't need to play. It was this little simple melody. I listened. I played with tone. I played with good time and articulation. That's enough. And if you can't do that, then do that first, then add the chords.
So, on the subject of swinging and groove,
Yeah.
Tobias has asked, can you give me some ideas on how to work on phrasing to achieve that incredible swirly feeling chord melody playing that you do?
I'm going to go back to what the masters all say: learn a lot of tunes, listen a lot, and play a lot, and you'll find your way. I would say definitely never, ever, ever try to swing. You trying to swing is the way you will kill swing. No one has ever tried to swing and swung. You just have to let it swing. Play as evenly as possible and let your natural thing come in. But you need to play your notes legato. Phrase notes that are broken cannot swing. That has a chance of swinging. So I'm not going. I'm going. Now that, yeah, you could hear it was really, actually, it wasn't rhythm, it was articulation. And it was kind of the you know what I mean? You can hear how like I'm kind of articulating the upbeat just a little bit more than the down than the beat, right? Can you hear that? I'm playing straight eighth notes, but it's more of a dynamic articulation that's making it swing than the actual rhythmic placement part. And again, that's from listening to him, from listening to Red Garland and John Coltrane and Wes Montgomery and Joe Pass. You will find what you want to hear. And then if you play a lot, you know what? It's going to start happening for you. But don't try to swing. You can't force swing. You can't make it swing. You just got to let it swing.
I love it. Um, got maybe two more questions.
Okay.
One of them is a little quick one on voicings. How many drop two voicings do you use? Are they an important part of your playing?
sure I even know what a drop two is. I mean, here I teach at a school. I'll probably get fired for this saying that. I mean, because there's the drop two in the sense of the true, um, in the true like sense of a stack of chords, like like a major seven chord where you drop the second voicing down an octave. But then a lot of times on the guitar, a lot of people think, well, I'll take the second note that plays in the guitar voicing and drop it an octave. You know what I mean? So they're great, and of course, if you watch me play, you probably see me play them all the time. So yes, I mean, I just don't really think in terms of drop two and drop three and drop four. You know what I mean? It's just not a way I work voicings out. I mean, I have a melody note and I'm looking for a chord, and I'll just add notes of that chord if I'm working it out. You know what I mean? If I got a C major and I got a G here, well, I want to hear the nine, and I want to hear the seven. How am I going to get the nine and the seven? Now it's starting to sound like a G chord, so I don't like that. So I want to put something in there that's going to make it sound like a C chord. So maybe I'll switch over to that. You know what I mean? So I mean, is that a drop two or a drop three? Yes. It's just easier for me, but I do know those voicings. I mean, those are the ones we play normally.
Nice. We've got a few people asking a similar question in different ways. It's basically the question of, where do I get started when I'm taking something from the real book and trying to turn it into a chord melody or solo jazz guitar performance? And maybe your advice is different for the beginner to the intermediate. So could we start with?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, I'm going to start with, like if, obviously the best thing is play the melody at first and just play chords in the spaces. Something as simple as, then you may want to add some chromaticism to it. Things like that. And that's where I'd start. Then you might want to start playing, well, when I land on that note, I'm going to play the chord. You know what I mean? Just start with that. I mean, for those of you that's like, duh, and you're so much better than that, then those people probably weren't asking that question. You know what I mean? So those would be the places I would start. It's just play the chords in the spaces first, then play the chords on certain notes. Don't forget to add chromatic passing chords. Like you can always play the half step above every chord before you go to it, right? You can play the chord below. You know what I mean? We're lucky on the guitar because we don't have to do what piano players have to do. They are so jealous of us that we can go like la la, and it's the same fingering. We just move it up like a slide rule. They have to go like, they have to dial it in like a ham radio operator, So use that. It makes, pardon me, it makes it sound good, and it's actually good, solid musical theory.
So I think that kind of ties on to this other thing that's been coming up, which is trying to understand how you're able to flow so well, weaving in bass lines, weaving in these chord movements. So you mentioned there you did a bit of the half step movement. Do you have any more insights into how you flow and how you're able to do that?
Yeah, very much so. Very good question too. And I think Joe and I talked about this a lot. And I kind of got it from like Art Tatum, who's a piano player I like to listen to. It's like, I think that we as guitar players are we think with one, like if I play an A minor, it's like we do, right? We do that. We think A minor, we play all of that, right? And I think that's kind of getting it. It's just a conception of that as A minor is where the problem is. When really, in fact, when I played this, right? I really played an A bass note, I played the A minor chord, and I have an A melody note. So I have three things there that I'm doing. I can give you just two of them. You want the bass note and the chord? You want the bass note and the melody? You want the chord and the melody? You know what I mean? And I see things distinctively in three groups. So it's more like I'm juggling when I'm playing. And then the question becomes, what am I hearing? What haven't I heard? Right? Oh, I haven't played a bass note in a while. I'll play some of those. I mean, it's kind of that now to me. Now I know that that's an advanced level mindset, but it comes down to, if you played the piano and you could really look at your hands doing things, you'd see that the bass notes are probably in this part of your left hand, right? And the kind of the harmonies in the middle of everything, and the melody notes up at the top of everything, right? It's kind of what you're doing. Well, that's what we're doing on the guitar. You know what I mean? Can you hear me like juggling the things? Because in like the melody, the bass notes is, and I can, with some passing, stuff like that, right? The chords are, and so with some passing, you know what I mean? And then the melody is, it's up there with some passing. You know what I mean? So like, I've got these three things going. So when you're saying that I'm flowing, I mean, thank you. It's a very high compliment. But really, I'm juggling. I'm just kind of hearing everything. And sometimes I'm doing two things against another thing. Sometimes doing one thing. Sometimes I'm doing all three. So, it's like, but in my mind, they're distinct, different things. And that helps a lot.
So I imagine that helps you when you're fitting in with a band, especially we had someone asking about playing with a pianist and vibes. Uh,
Right.
if you know what you're juggling, it's easier to know what you need to throw in the mix, right?
Exactly. Yeah, you hear, again, what haven't I heard? What needs to be played here? I mean, playing with a piano player is a very challenging, difficult thing for a guitar player. It is, mostly because piano players don't want to play with us, and they'll just play the way they want to play anyways, and we've got to figure a way to fit in. That, in general, is the rule. Not all, I know a lot of great piano players who don't play that way, but that's generally what you're going to come in contact with when when you play with the piano. So my suggestion is, of course, stylistically, I mean, if you're playing a swing style, then you can get away with kind of doing a Freddie Green type thing, playing, or if you're playing Latin, you can play like a syncopated part, and the piano player can just fit around that. But if you're playing like bebop style, you only need one comper. So I would say kind of just play mostly thirds and sevenths at first on the D and G string, and just start there. This would be Autumn Leaves in the key of G. You know? Just start there. You're not going to get in trouble with that. You know what I mean? You're not going to get in trouble. So, and again, what's the big deal here? We want to be able to play with that person. They're probably a good player. We want to stay in the crowd and keep getting an opportunity to get more experience. So to keep it simple and not get in the way, that's really an important mindset for playing music. Enhance the group. Don't make it harder for anybody else around you to play. Because we, need to get the experience to get better. So those are things that I would suggest, and hopefully the piano player will look and realize, wait a minute, I've been playing chords here for 5 minutes. They got a guitar here, man. Well, you do it, They give you a look, and then you're ready, and you do it, and then they'll fit in with you. So just be respectful and patient.
Awesome. And hope for a bit of luck. Hope that they're listening too.
I mean, it's hard, and frankly, I play so little with piano players anymore. It's so rare that I play with a piano player, and I mean, and generally my job is kind of what the piano player would do in that band. So I've kind of, I can get busy. I know that. And so when I got the piano, I have to, I just listen again back to like, what am I hearing? Well, I don't need to play a bunch of chords and bass notes anymore. I can play more lines. It's like, okay, that's what I'll do. You know.
Nice. So we're kind of coming up to our time there. I think I've hit as many big questions as I can. Couple of people asking just about the guitar and string gauge. Everyone's always curious about that. Could you run us through that quickly, please?
Yeah, this guitar is, yeah, everybody probably knows that I have Barney Kessel's old guitar. This is a guitar that a guy in Japan who worked on Barney's guitar made copies of Barney's guitar, and they're great. It's an Archtop Tribute Classic. It's the same guy who makes Westville guitars, and he worked on Barney's guitar, so he like got a chance to make these pickups and everything. And these are great guitars. He makes a copy of Barney's, but then he had missed a few things, and I set him straight. I did some measurements for him, and then he asked me if I wanted one, and I didn't want a copy of Barney's. I had some things I wanted to change. I like a more of a D-shaped neck, not the C shape. More of a fits the hand, I think, better. And I wanted my neck a little. He liked a real thin neck. He'd shaved his neck way down, and this is a little wider than Barney's, but he sells these and they're very inexpensive. This is a great guitar, but I play Barney's Gibson ES350, have an L5, have a Sontag. There's a guy in Germany who makes amazing guitars, Stefan Sontag. And again, none of these are particularly expensive. Why I like them, they're not like going to get you for $50,000 for a, which nothing wrong with those beautiful $50,000 guitars, but I don't know. I think we should play more, not pay more. You know, and, so this guitar is that's what this is. The string gauges I like. I like fairly heavy strings. 14 on the top, 56 on the bottom. These are D'Addario. I switch out. I mean, it's the set with the 1317 at the top, and I switch out the top too. They're flat wound. I like flat wound strings, especially as much sliding around playing chords as I do. I really like that. Although with humbucking pickups, I always had a problem because it was so muddy that you couldn't really hear the notes. Like kind of like Wes sometimes. With between his thumb and the humbucking pickup on the L5 and the flat wound strings, it was hard to hear the notes. Well, this Charlie Christian pickup is so much clearer than a humbucking pickup that when I got Barney's guitar, I realized it was so funny because I got Barney's guitar and all of a sudden I found myself playing on the low strings, melodies on the low strings. I never did that my whole life because archtops sometimes can get real like an electric bass at the bottom, real woofy big. And like I started like playing lines with Barney's guitar, and now it's like I've been given 30% of the guitar back melodically. This. You know. Like I'm playing down there all the time now because of this pickup, mostly. And that's even.
Sorry, what was that guitar again? What's the maker on that?
It's called Arch Top Tribute Classic, ATC. The guy's name is Masaki Nishimura. He also has that company Westville, and he has a great store in Tokyo called Walken. And
Someone's just linked it in the chat. Yeah.
say that I have a couple friends who bought the Barney copy. It's called like the ATC 350 BK or something.
Hmm.
Um, every his setups are amazing. I know why Barney loved him. You know what I mean? Because like Barney would wait to go to Japan to have his guitar worked on. You know, and I can see why. I mean, this guitar came on an airplane in a case, and it was set up as good as any guitar I'd ever played.
Well, so someone's asked just some insights on action and then tone production from an arch top. If you've got any insights on that.
Yeah, well, tone production from an arch. I mean, yeah, the reason you would want to play an archtop guitar, I assume, is because you want dynamic response. You get so much. It's an acoustic guitar, so you're getting real like you hit it a little bit harder, you get a lot more difference. I mean, the nuance of dynamic expression in an archtop guitar versus a semi-hollow or a solid body is huge. It's just really huge. And for me, I'm going for that kind of horn style phrasing, where then some notes pop out and some notes are swallowed and all that stuff. And an archtop guitar makes it easier to do that. But of course, it's harder to actually play it in reality, but it still makes it easier to do it if you want to do it. And then it becomes how hard the pick is all about what? Placement, speed, pressure, and angle. That's all it is. I mean, it'd be the same thing if you had a bow on a cello or a violin. That's exactly what the teacher would talk about. How fast it moves across the string, the angle it moves across the string, how much pressure you use, right? Well, that's the same thing with your pick or your hands, guys. And just, and placement too is the other one. It gets warmer and fatter and richer the further towards the middle you get, but sometimes if I'm in a room or if I'm playing with a loud drummer or a room that's real boomy, I'll purposely pull my hand back, and it kind of cuts out a little bit of it. It adds more point to the note. It gets a little nasal if you get too close to the bridge, but you can move where you place your pick. All these things are things you need. Come on, guys, you need to you're going to play the guitar. It's your voice. It'd be the same thing as you know, affecting your voice in a way. These are our tools. It's not really rocket science. The big thing is if you're feeling a lot of tension, particularly in your right arm or your left hand, be careful. That's the way you hurt yourself. So stop and figure out a way to work from a controlled tension with as little tension as possible. You can't be totally relaxed, otherwise you'd be a jellyfish and you wouldn't play. But make sure that you're not overly tense, you're not hurting anything, because that will be a problem going further. And work with a teacher. Teachers are great. And again, for all of you, if you had questions that weren't answered, you want to take a lesson with me, fine. You want to get one of my videos, maybe the answer's there. They're very specific what subjects those videos all deal with, except for the very first one. The very first one's an overview of jazz guitar. Of the other 16, so 15 of them are specific subjects that may be the thing you wanted to ask that question about. So check it out. Obviously, you can take lessons with me. Just find me on my website and email me, and we'll work it out on Zoom or whatever.
Awesome. So the last question we've got here is someone who's interested in contemporary jazz, modern jazz, has asked how important do you think studying the standards is and learning standards and maybe even learning solos and the playing of the classics is for someone who wants the modern stuff?
Between honest, not at all. Learn what you like and play what you like. But there's a lot to be learned from it. If you're interested in it, I mean, good melody is always going to be good melody. Functional harmony is always going to be functional harmony. You know what I mean? And I would assume the more control you have of it, the better you're going to be. But hey, if you're on a mission, you only got so many hours to study and to do things. do what makes you want to do it. You know what I mean? I'm 100% a believer in that. You know, I mean, and as we know, some of the greatest music in the world came from guys who didn't know a fucking thing about what they were doing. You know, so it's obviously not a prerequisite. You know,
We've showing up fashionably late. Tim Lurch has just joined the call. Hi, Tim.
we're gonna have to buy him an alarm clock.
um, so there's been one tune that people have been asking about. So maybe when you play us out, I was wondering if you could play us
Okay.
out with this tune. We'll just finally just run through uh, final possible questions for the book. So the new book is called Chord Melody Fundamentals, with the
Uh-huh.
emphasis being on fun, and it covers 11 to 14 different moves and concepts and just things to explore to enhance your chord melody playing. How else would you sum it up, Bruce?
I think you just did a great job. You know, it's yeah, they're all going to be little tools. It's not a method book. It's not a commitment. Just use just like this other book. Open it up, find something you like, learn it, use it, move on to the next one another day. You know, whatever.
And yeah, it comes with audio, video, guitar profiles,
Yeah.
and all the good stuff. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Carter Arrington has just said thank you for today. It's been killer. Carter, I need to get you a book next. Um, Guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. The book's available from guitarvivo.com. I forgot to say that. Bruce, thank you so much for just another epic, mind-melting session.
You know, everybody. I just want you all to play. Remember, play, listen, and learn tunes, and just have a good time. You know, make sure it's swinging, and just yeah, just play good music. You know, that's all there is to it. You're all gonna be fine. You know, and thanks for your support, whether it be buying the book or checking the videos out or taking a lesson or just even coming to my gigs. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, some people did say, will you have books at gigs? I'll ship you a
Okay.
box of books, but
Yeah.
how quickly you get through them and what gigs they go to, we won't be able to control. But I'll
Right.
try my best.
Yeah. You know.
Right, so no pressure, but to end this wonderful session, could you play There Will Never Be Another You? And could you try and include some of the stuff that people will learn in the book?
Sure. 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 Okay. Thanks, everybody.
That was incredible. I have to mention then, guys, if you got the email for this, if you follow the link, you'll be able to watch the replay of this. It'll be on the site for 7 days and on my YouTube channel. So if you, I want to go, if you're like me and you want to watch that little performance again and steal some nuggets, it is available. It'll be up there in the email or on my YouTube channel. It'll be up there for 7 days. After that, it just goes with the book. So if you get the book, you'll be able to see this. But Bruce, incredible. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and everybody just keep swinging, right? Just keep playing and stay in touch. And that's all I can ask. All right.
We'll see you all